Me now, Sky News contributor Graham Richardson. Great to see you tonight, Richo. Look, let's talk Queensland politics first, if we can. Now, of course, there's been a pretty significant scare campaign run by Clive Palmer here in Queensland. He's got full-page ads, double-page ads actually, plus TV ads about the fact that he believes the Palaszczuk government will introduce a death tax if they're re-elected. Now, today, Richo, he came out and said a Treasury official, an unnamed Treasury official, leaked the death tax plan to him. Now, of course, we saw Tourism Minister Kate Jones come out. She was very, very angry today, decrying the notion of a death tax. Clive, up to no good, mate?
Well, Clive's always up to no good. I mean, anyone who believes Clive Palmer is just crazy. I mean, this bloke wouldn't know how to tell the truth, just wouldn't know. Now, the chances of Labor introducing a death tax are much less than nil. And I think we should all just forget this is a stupid argument thrown up by Palmer because he can see Anastasia Palaszczuk winning again. And that's something he really doesn't want to see. He's viciously anti-Labor. He'll do anything to stop Labor. And this is just his latest gambit. It is absolute nonsense. The chances of a death tax, as I said, are less than zero. No one in the Palaszczuk government will put forward that in any form whatsoever. So this is just typical Palmer.
Richo, Peter Beattie, former Queensland Premier, he weighed into the border debate today. He sort of came out very strongly and suggested that Anastasia had done a good job on containing the virus, but it was now time to really get fair income about opening the borders and opening up the skies for aviation. Interesting that that Beattie would feel compelled to put himself into the election fray just 4 days out from the election.
Well, I mean, you know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And this bloke just loves the limelight, and he's always been very good at it. So he saw a chance and he took it. And I applaud him for that because I know there's no way you could have stopped it. That's the kind of thing that Peter Beattie loves. But in real terms, I don't think there's any problem whatsoever for Palaszczuk. She's not going to do anything silly. She knows the difficulties that getting a third term entail, and there's no way she'll do anything that's off track. She's on an absolute path to victory. She will not be deviated. She'll just keep going.
Richo, Daniel Andrews, of course, yesterday announcing that the imposition of lockdowns and restrictions will be eased considerably. On Sunday, he got up and said, look, we're going to have to keep the course for a bit longer. Copped a lot of flack. Big business went after him. Small business went after him. And yet he's still 52% of Victorians, according to an Ipsos poll today in The Age, say he's handled the pandemic well. What are your thoughts on Andrews and the way he's handled this?
Well, you know, you've got to remember, as I keep saying, there's no rule book. You've got to make this up as you go because we've never faced this, right? So you can make the right steps, you can make the wrong steps, but you've got to try things. I think he's done pretty well. I mean, yeah, there's been a couple of mistakes, but gee, he's managed to stop it. It's not going like it was, even though you've got so many cases there that, you know, it could easily get out of hand. It's not out of hand, and I think you've got to give him some credit for that. Some credit. I mean, as I said, I don't think he's handled it perfectly, but then again, I wish people would just think of themselves. Imagine being in his position. There's no rule book. You've got no idea. There's no doctor in Australia who can tell you what to do, and yet you're supposed to take health advice. It's an impossible position for leaders.
Graham, this time next week, America will be well and truly headed to the polls. Of course, there's been a lot of pre-polls, but many millions of Americans will be headed to the polls. It'll be quite cool over there. Today, US Judge Amy Coney Barrett was sworn in. Many are suggesting that this is Trump's finest hour. Now, I know there's a suggestion that Biden is going to win this in a landslide. I get a sense it might be a little bit closer than what we think.
Well, I think anyone who writes off Trump ever is really making a big mistake. I think he's embarrassing. I think his knowledge in things like foreign affairs is abysmal. I think he's a terrible president. But he does know how to rally the troops. He does know how to get fires burning in their hearts. He does know how to move people. And poor old Biden, well, I think, without being unkind, Biden's never moved anyone and never will. So what you've got is someone who deserves defeat being opposed by someone who doesn't deserve victory. Makes it for a tough call. I think Biden will win, and I think he'll win comfortably, but not a landslide.
Richo, before we go, I know you would have been watching the grand final, the NRL grand final on Sunday evening. Terrific game, of course, Melbourne Storm winning, but the career has essentially gone down on Cameron Smith. He hasn't announced he's retiring yet, but I'd be gobsmacked if he went on. Fantastic player, a real ornament to the game, wasn't he?
Yeah, look, he's a phenomenon. When you consider his age, what is he, 36 or something? It's absolutely amazing
I think he might
the
be
way
older.
he gets around the field. Well, it's amazing. I think he's an extraordinary human being, this bloke, but I'd love to have the same motor, wouldn't you? I mean, whatever he's got there is just fantastic. I think this bloke's somebody who we really should look up to. There are very few people who will ever achieve what Cameron Smith has achieved. Great players like Thurston didn't do as much. And so you've got to say, when you look at the greats of the game, this bloke's name will always get a mention. Yeah,
I think he's certainly one of the top 2 or 3 players I've ever seen. I've always maintained Thurston's the best, but he's right up there. Richo, great to see you tonight. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday night. We'll be a few hours out from the US election, and hopefully we'll know the result of what happens in Queensland.
Okay, mate. Talk to you soon.